Chicago, December 2002. The city was preparing for Christmas, but in the suburb, where life seemed calm, a story was unfolding that shocked America. Anna Mitchell was a 27-year-old woman in the 8th month of pregnancy. She was awaited not only by her family, but by the whole neighborhood. Neighbors rejoiced for the young family, congratulated them on the future child. Anna was known as a kind, smiling woman. Taught music to children, taught them to play the piano, helped in the parish church, participated in charity fairs. Her husband, Robert Mitchell, 30 years old, worked in real estate. Confident, well-groomed, always in a good car. For neighbors, he seemed an example of a successful young father. In photographs, they looked like the perfect couple. But behind closed doors, something else was hidden. Christmas Eve, Robert told his wife that he wanted to go to Lake Michigan to fish and clear his head. Anna stayed home. But an hour later, neighbor Mrs. Johnson noticed something strange. The Mitchell's Labrador, named Rocky, was running alone in the street with a leash on its neck. Anna would never have left him like that, Mrs. Johnson later recalled. By noon, Anna's phone did not answer. Relatives became worried. The car was in the garage. Coat, bag, and keys at home. Anna was gone. In the evening, Anna's mother called the police. Officers arrived at the house and found a disturbing picture. The door was locked from inside. Anna's phone, bag, and documents in place. No signs of struggle. Robert returned home only late at night. He answered questions calmly, almost without emotions. "I was at the lake. When I came back, Anna was gone. I thought she went to a friend or shopping." But Anna's mother immediately told police she would never have left the dog. Never. December 25th, Chicago was already buzzing with the news. Missing, Anna Mitchell, 27 years old, 8 months pregnant. Photos of Anna appeared in the evening news. Reporters stood at the Mitchell's house. Neighbors held posters, "Help find Anna." Volunteers combed forest belts, the shore of the lake, hung leaflets, but everything was fruitless. From the very first days, the media's attention was drawn to Robert. He gave interviews, said, "If anyone has seen my wife, please contact the police." But his behavior seemed strange. He did not look grief-stricken, often turned eyes away from the camera, kept his hands in pockets as if defending himself. One of the neighbors said, "He said the right words, but in his face was neither pain nor panic, as if he was playing a role." Police checked Robert's route. He really was at the lake. His car was found there. But witnesses claimed they saw it elsewhere during the day. Then detectives studied his phone calls and discovered on the day of Anna's disappearance, Robert called the same number dozens of times. That number belonged to a woman named Sophie Clark. Sophie was a fitness trainer, young, energetic, beautiful. When police contacted her, she said words that turned the investigation upside down. "Robert told me that he was a widower, that his wife had died a few months ago." But at that moment, Anna was alive and 8 months pregnant. What began as an ordinary day before Christmas turned into a nightmare. A young mother disappears, the husband behaves too calmly, and the mistress claims he already presented himself as a widower. Police begin to understand, behind the facade of the perfect family, a dangerous lie was hidden. Days passed, but Anna was never found. In Chicago and its surroundings, more than 100 volunteers were involved. In parks, on the shores of the lake, in forest areas, everywhere her name was heard. But all this time, suspicion increasingly fell on the person who should have been closest, her husband, Robert Mitchell. Detectives began to notice details. Robert often avoided participating in searches. At press conferences, he behaved too restrained, like a tired actor. When friends offered to walk around nearby neighborhoods, he answered, "I don't see the point. She's not there anyway." Neighbors discussed him behind his back. Quote, "He seemed already resigned, but she could be anywhere." The main turning point came when police officially obtained Robert's call records. On the day of Anna's disappearance, he contacted Sophie Clark more than 20 times. Officers summoned her for questioning. Sophie said, quote, "Robert told me that he was free, that his wife had died. We made plans. I didn't know Anna was alive, pregnant." End quote. These words were a bomb. Journalists found out about this story, and the next day newspaper headlines screamed, quote, "Husband lied, claimed his wife was dead." End quote. Reporters kept watch near the Mitchells' house. Cameras caught his every step. In the eyes of the public, he stopped being a caring husband. Now he was the main suspect. Police set up surveillance on him. Detectives saw him meeting Sophie. He promised her, quote, "Soon everything will be settled. We will start life again." End quote. But the evidence was becoming more obvious. Robert did not search for his wife. He was thinking about a new life. And too often mentioned that, quote, "everything was already decided," end quote. One night, neighbors noticed Robert loading some heavy bags into the car. Police tracking his movements confirmed he was not driving home, but toward the bay on the outskirts of Chicago.
From that moment, investigators decided they had to act carefully but quickly. In early January 2003, police began searching the coastal zone of Lake Michigan. In the water, they found a rope with pieces of concrete. Experts said it could have been a homemade weight. But there was still not enough direct evidence against Robert. Meanwhile, Sophie agreed to cooperate with police. She provided recordings of their conversations made on a dictaphone. Robert said, "Soon everything will change. I will be with you, I swear." Sophie said, "And Anna?" Robert, "Anna is gone." This phrase sounded like a sentence. At that moment, police already knew it was not about the search for a missing woman. It was a murder investigation. The city was divided. Some said he is a cold-blooded killer. Others did not believe. Robert couldn't. He loved her. But the more details surfaced, the fewer doubts remained. Spring 2003, almost 4 months after Anna's disappearance. human remains were found near the bay shore. First, the body of the infant. The next day, the body of the woman. Forensic examination confirmed it was Anna Mitchell and her unborn child. The story that began as the search for a pregnant woman turned into an investigation of a monstrous crime. Soon, Robert Mitchell would be called the most hated man in Chicago. After the bodies of Anna Mitchell and her child were found in the bay, it became obvious for police this was no longer a search. This was a murder case. The main suspect had been nearby all the time. April 15, 2003, Robert Mitchell was arrested near his parents' house in suburban Chicago. Neighbors saw him trying to calmly get out of the car, but police surrounded him. "Robert Mitchell, you are under arrest on suspicion of murdering your wife, Anna, and your child." The crowd held its breath. Journalists filmed every frame. At the station, Robert was placed in a gray room with a camera and a mirror. On the table, a dictaphone, glass of water, folder of photographs. Detective Kramer said, "Robert, we know that Anna is dead. We found her. You were with her last. Tell us what happened." Robert shook his head. "I didn't kill Anna. I went fishing. When I returned, she was gone." His voice was even, but his hands trembled. The next day, Robert agreed to a polygraph test. The expert said bluntly, "I rarely say this so harshly,
but you failed the test." His answers were not believed. The lines on paper spoke for themselves. Meanwhile, Robert's mistress continued to cooperate with the investigation. She provided not only recordings of conversations, but also copies of letters. In one of them, he wrote, "Soon we will be together. Everything is settled. I have no past." Prosecutors showed the letters to journalists. Newspapers came out with headlines, "Love and Lies: The Secret Life of Robert Mitchell." The investigation collected significant evidence. Sophie's phone calls, his route and inconsistencies in his alibi, found weights in the water, and his lie about being a widower. Robert's defense insisted, "There is no direct evidence that he killed Anna. He only turned out to be a victim of coincidences." But public opinion was already against him. Neighbors said they heard screams in the house the day before Anna's disappearance. Mrs. Johnson, that very neighbor, said in court, "I saw him late at night loading something into the car. It didn't look like fishing." These words sounded in the news as the first nail in the coffin of his defense. Chicago lived by this case. Reports aired every evening. Newspapers wrote, "The Mitchell family tragedy." On talk shows, they discussed the question, how could one live with a person and not know he was ready for murder? For Anna's family, it was unbearable. Her mother said, "I trusted him. We all trusted. He was supposed to protect her, not—" Her words required no continuation. The case of Robert Mitchell became one of the loudest trials of the early 2000s. Ahead was a trial that divided Chicago into two camps. Some demanded the death penalty. Others believed there was not enough evidence, but the truth had to be spoken. Summer 2004. After a year and a half of investigation, Robert Mitchell's case went to court. It was a trial the entire country watched. TV cameras were on duty at the courthouse doors every day, and halls were crowded with reporters and ordinary citizens. The judge opened the session. Robert sat at the defendant's table in a gray suit with downcast eyes. On his hands, handcuffs. The benches were full. Anna's family, neighbors, acquaintances, journalists. Some cried, others looked at him with hatred. The prosecutor began his speech. Anna Mitchell was 8 months pregnant. She dreamed of her future child, prepared for Christmas. But her life was cut short by the man who was supposed to protect her, her own husband. He showed photographs of Anna, smiling, pregnant, next to the crib. The hall froze. Robert's lawyer insisted, "Your Honor, the evidence is circumstantial. No witness saw Robert kill Anna. No precise murder weapon. My client became a victim of public and media pressure." He tried to portray Robert as innocent, but the prosecutor's words sounded stronger. Mrs. Johnson said, "At night, I saw Robert loading something heavy into the car. The next day, Anna disappeared." Another neighbor said, "The dog was running with the leash. Anna would never have left it alone. That was not her style." Witness testimonies painted the same picture. Something happened in the house. The prosecutor presented phone records. Printouts showed dozens of calls to Sophie Clark on the day of disappearance. Messages where Robert wrote, "Soon everything will be settled. We will be together." The audio recording of his words, made by Sophie on a dictaphone, played in the hall. "Anna is gone." After that, exclamations broke out in the hall. The judge had to ask for silence. On the witness stand sat Sophie. She spoke quietly, almost whispering. "I loved him, but he deceived me. I didn't know Anna was alive. If I had known, I would never have." She burst into tears. The prosecutor asked, "Did he tell you about plans?" "Yes, he said he would soon be free." When Robert's time came to speak, he stood. His voice sounded cold. "I didn't kill my wife. I loved Anna. All this is a mistake. I will become a victim in this story."
He spoke long, confidently. But in the hall, no one believed his words. Even Anna's mother, crying, whispered, "Liar." After several days of hearings, the jury went to deliberate. They returned after 7 hours. The judge read the verdict. "We find Robert Mitchell guilty of first-degree murder of Anna Mitchell and their unborn child." In the hall, there were cries. Someone applauded, someone cried. Robert lowered his head and closed his eyes. The judge continued. "Sentence, life imprisonment without parole." After the trial, Chicago long discussed this process. Some said, "This punishment is fair." Others believed the death penalty would have been more just. For Anna's family, the verdict was a bitter consolation. Her mother said, "We lost our daughter and grandchild. But now he will not harm anyone." The story of the Mitchell family shocked America. It showed how behind the facade of a perfect life, betrayal and death can be hidden. And reminded, sometimes those we trust the most can turn out to be our worst enemies.